Welcome everyone to 7 Minutes or Less, talking about the shows you love and want to get into. Today we'll be talking about Good Omens, Season 1. So, here we are. Good Omens. Most of you have seen it or have been skeptical of it, so it's time to tell you just from my perspective what I have thought about this miniseries as a whole. Good Omens is about an angel and a demon, Aziraphale and Crowley, who both seek to prevent the coming Armageddon, mostly due to the fact that they have grown accustomed to Earth. Due to a mix-up of events, the Antichrist is misplaced between two other babies, and unbeknownst to the angel and demon, as they inject themselves into the children's lives, they don't realize they have the wrong children, as they're trying to impose the kid to do good rather than evil. When I first heard about this project and how it was based off of a book, I was excited just based on the involvement of who was in this. David Tennant and Micheal Sheen, just for starters. Everyone else ended up being a surprise to me as I watched the show. Each person involved added something to the story, which kept it from getting boring. You should know, however, very little action is in this show, so if you're expecting some big, epic, action-packed, crazy, adrenaline-fueled thrill ride, you just might be finding yourself turning off the first episode quite disappointed. Another thing to realize is that while this is a fun adaptation, this is probably not your cup of tea. This is indeed a very British take on the coming apocalypse between an angel and a demon trying to stop it. So the wit is sharp, dialogue is often pretentious, the stakes are high but sometimes treated like an afterthought with humor and personalities in the forefront rather than action. Fans of the book, as I've heard, can be quite annoyed based off of one reason or another. The book was written by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, but the show is directly written by Neil himself, and he wrote every episode. Due to the fact that I have never read the book, though I'm pretty sure I should, my best guess is Neil could have tried to stay true to as many nuances between both their writing styles and ideas provided in the book. Many people won't see that effort when everyone is thinking of a much different tone for the adaptation or different ways the coming conflict should have happened. Let's talk about the characters if you are one that has watched the show or is about to or have gotten only halfway. David Tennant is and always will be magnetic in performance. Every time he is on screen as either a good guy or a bad guy, he really knows what part of the ugly needs to be seen and the type of charm that is needed to combat it, so he is not nearly an unfollowable character. Aziraphale is more or less someone who keeps to himself and is very cautious over confrontations and bumbles about nervously. But that's not all there is to this character. You find that he's willing to work in the shades of gray once convinced that certain matters need to be overlooked or pushed forward due to one thing or another. The biggest strength between these two is their chemistry together, and it's easily the best part of this show. When either one of them is not on screen, I found myself sort of missing them and wishing they were in it more. But that's not to say I didn't like any of the other supporting cast members. Everyone does a great job holding their own. This miniseries does take the time to establish other storylines, to which one in particular, a Witchfinder story, takes up some considerable screen time and precedence as the second episode rolls around. That and the summoning of the Four Horsemen makes its way through each episode with their own creative takes of what gender they are, what they're doing in today's society. It's quite clever and interesting at best. I guess if I have any sort of gripe, it's that there wasn't a lot of the Four Horsemen. Their screen time is considerable enough, but it's not really present consistently, so we don't really register them as a real threat. They just show up to get things moving and make things worse. While Crowley and Aziraphale both are the charming center focus here, it's not the only story worthy of following. It is the Antichrist himself who doesn't know he is one. This is what makes this such a fascinating show to watch. From all angles, you see what kind of realistic position all these spiritual deities have in today's society, how they have been executing their roles over centuries. But because the child himself is only 11 with no clue that he's the Antichrist, he has 3 other friends that he plays around with. You can see that the supernatural elements surrounding him are getting him ready to become the bringer of the end of the world. What I truly loved about this show is the vast span of time it quickly goes through in just the first episode alone. After the first episode, each one after it is a countdown to the end of the world, with the ever on point reminder of how much time is left before all things end. Another thing I love is that they dedicate an entire episode to Crowley and Aziraphale's friendship throughout the centuries up until present day, and to be honest, it didn't feel like filler. Their friendship showcases the various different cultures they grew accustomed to in the various places of the world. But the biggest thing to understand about the show is the amount of fun it's having when telling its story. There is moments where you're watching fully intent on understanding the coming proceedings, then next thing you know, it's telling a whole new story, and you might be lost for maybe a small moment, but you realize this is all set up for a character to come about and add to the overall arc. This show does have a habit of going off topic for a bit too long just to tell a joke, which adds to some creative wit. But if I had any more gripes or flaws with this series, it would come down to mostly the screen time with certain characters. Understanding the relationship between the four horsemen, for sure. I would love to have seen a little bit more screen time between the four of them. And maybe, for another one, the kids speak a little bit more like kids. Their dialogue comes off as posh and pretentious. I often wondered why we had to witness them talk about the Spanish Inquisition just to play a game between the four of them. Now, while this isn't a problem, I had a blast watching Good Omens. It was fun, funny, moved pretty quickly, it's clever, and self-referential to other works out there. The story was well handled, and it's entirely possible you might like it or love it too. I'm gonna give Good Omens an A. Alright everyone, thank you all so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed my Good Omens full season review. Let me know down below if you're interested in seeing it or otherwise. If you're new to my channel, check out what I do here. I create all sorts of stuff from TV show and movie reviews. Turn on those notifications if you're interested, and if you want to sub, please, it would help out tremendously. Follow me on Twitter for all the most recent updates and random thoughts on movies and TV shows. And with that said, I hope you have a fantastic and wonderful day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.